she decided to go to college. She hadn't finished college. She had done a little bit of college before she got married. So she went to St. Michael's in Trinity College up there in Winooski, Vermont, South Burlington, Vermont area. And she got her degree in elementary education. And believe it or not, she taught school for 10 years, beginning at the age 60, I believe she was when she started, and retired when she was 70. So she was a real model to the rest of us, a model to people who think, well, I'm too old to do anything. It's too late for me to do that. But she did it. Anyway, 843-2500 is our number. If you want to call in about your mother, if you'd rather talk about something else, that's okay too. We can do that. We can talk about a variety of other things, which I have here on my list. But before I go on any further, let me just mention a few things about Mother's Day. 3.9 million women between the ages of 15 and 50 gave birth in the past 12 months. That's from the U.S. Census Bureau. That's just for the United States. Here's a statistic that you might not find so good, so I'm not thrilled about it. 36% of the women aged 15 to 50 who had a birth in the past 12 months were not married. Then it says, this is all from the Census Bureau. Very few women with postgraduate degrees have children, very small number. Stay-at-home moms, 5.2 million stay-at-home moms. And single moms, here's a statistic that ought to bother us because it's a massive social change in our country and for which many of us taxpayers are paying. 9.9 million single moms. And that number has gone up from 1970 to 2014. It went from 3.4 million to 9.9 million. And as you know, many young men father children and then they disappear, and we're left to take care of these mothers and the family. So that's all I got to say about Mother's Day right now, and I hope you will call in to talk about your mother. But since no one's called in yet, let's move on to some other topics. You can still call in about that, but you might want to call in about other things too. I noticed that the Farm Bureau really ripped into the proposed tax hike for the Greater Amsterdam School District. They appeared at the meeting. Actually, only a couple people, I guess, came to the hearing, and one of them was the Montgomery County Farm Bureau President Michael Jennings. He spoke on behalf of farmers in the town of Florida Tuesday, voicing opposition to a tax levy increase in the Greater Amsterdam School District proposed 2015-2016 budget, which, as I already said, I'm opposed to. Even if we vote the budget down, they have to go to a contingency budget. If they go to a contingency budget, the tax rate increase is still over 2%. And actually, the contingency budget only cuts about $250,000 out. And that's not that big of a deal. I'm sure they can find that amount of money within the budget to cut if they want to. And like most people, you're negotiating, so the budget that's proposed that we have to vote on is probably more than they need, and in the contingency budget may very well be what they wanted in the first place. So, you know, you put out there a budget with a little more than what you want or need, people vote it down, and you get what you want anyway. So that's the way I look at it. You may not agree with me. That's okay. You can call in and say why. You can call in 843-2500 and say why you are against or for the Greater Amsterdam School District. We've got a phone call. Let's take it. Good morning. You're on WCSS Valley Vox.
I got a question on the school board.
Sure.
The election's coming up. Which is the candidate that's involved with the teachers union?
Let's see. Her name's Kathy. I got it right here. Kathy Holmes, is it? Hahn. Kathy Hahn.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned the other day when we were in the shop.
Okay, here it is. Yes, Catherine Hans, H-A-N-S is her last name. Now, I tried to get some of these people to come on, and they haven't responded to me. Maybe they don't want us to know what they believe. I really don't know.
Give me the other three names if you can.
Okay, yep. Lisa Choate.
Okay.
And Jackie Marciniak.
Okay, she works down the same areas, I think.
Okay. And Gavin Murdoch, of course, is the other one. He's he's a vice
teacher,
president of
and he
an...
was, I think, a principal, so I put him on a side. Okay, so the one that was with the
teachers
school
union.
board, with the union, her name is what now?
Catherine Hans.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 843-2500 if you want to call and talk about the Greater Amsterdam School District budget or the people that are running, or if you want to wish somebody a happy Mother's Day or talk about your mother or anything along that line. Now, I've heard people call in and talk about all the work that's being done on the Lock 11 down by Guy Park Manor. And it is a very expensive project. And but when it's done, we are going to be better off. We're going to be safer here. The gates, the dams, you know, they're these. They can be raised up by a motor or engine. Those are going to be able to be raised up faster, so that when floodwaters are coming, they'll be able to bring them up out of the water much quicker. Also, they're installing a system to monitor the water level. So a lot of this work being done in the canal is going to make us much safer. And after those floods in 2011 and so on, we should be happy that they're doing this, even though it is expensive. It is going to help us in the long run. Good morning. You're on Valley Vox.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Very good. One thing I'd like to talk about briefly here is climate,
Sure.
weather.
Mm-hmm.
According to NOAA, the last 13 months have been the warmest on record. And basically, the only part of the world that hadn't seen a rise in temperatures was the northeast quadrant of the United States.
Right.
Okay, now, coming out of a cold, snowy winter, we're into a dry spring.
Boy, are we ever.
And myself, this is basically one of the driest springs I can ever remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the soil is like powder already. It's really lacking for moisture.
Right.
Now, the bigger problem is that in the Southwest, where a lot of our fruits and vegetables are grown, they're in their fourth year of a severe drought.
Yes.
But the one thing that we have here in the Northeast is generally plenty of water.
Right.
And with the climate seemed to be warming up, the growing season is a little bit longer. Now, we always hear that Montgomery County's leading industry is agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a ride in the country, all you see is hundreds and hundreds of acres of corn, not for human consumption.
Right.
Basically for dairy.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that the dairy farmers are really at the mercy of milk prices, and milk prices are dropping.
Right.
So it would seem logical that there would be some type of shift away from dairy.
Yes.
And into something more lucrative where you could make a better dollar and pick up the slack from the Southwest.
Well, maybe we could have some, maybe a farmer would like to call in and talk about that. I know there's some farmers that listen to the station, but I agree. And it's tough to make a shift, though. It's tough when you've done something one way for a long time, and it's tough to make that shift, and it's tough to even realize, you know, there's so many people out there that say global warming's not, or climate change, we should say maybe. They basically don't believe in it. And they really don't, in my opinion, don't have a leg to stand on. Part of the problem is, like you said, here we have plenty of water. Here we had a brutal winter, so people say, well, how can there be climate change when we had one of the worst winters ever, one of the coldest winters ever? But as you, I think, indicated, and other people have, there's a big difference between climate and weather.
You know, and another thing I saw was that there has been some talk, although it didn't go anywhere, about piping water to the Southwest.
Well, that would be
from the Great.
I'm afraid
Great
that.
Lakes,
Yeah, sorry.
you know, from the Great Lakes.
Yes.
Or even I read where Nestle, the water company,
Yes.
Nestle's bottled water, they actually have tankers on the Great Lakes that have a lining in them,
Mm-hmm.
and they pump in the fresh water and they take it to China.
I've heard similar things, and hopefully if they're doing that, that would be stopped, number one. Number two, the idea
Well, who would stop it? Who would stop it?
well, the federal government, I would think. I mean, we shouldn't be we shouldn't be shipping water to China.
Well, we aren't. You know, but apparently Nestle is.
Nestle is, but I mean, water is a natural resource, and it's not something any company should really own per se, although actually it's becoming a battleground now, and there are corporations who are trying to take over water rights and buy water rights, and they're also offering to run or privatize or take over water systems, various municipal water systems, and they've succeeded in doing that in some places. But
what I heard that was kind of disturbing was that when we accidentally released 25 million gallons of raw sewage, it wasn't reported in the cities like Colony and Cohoes, which use the Mohawk River for their drinking water. I know it goes through all kind of purification processes and everything else, but I would still have a problem drinking that water.
Yeah, I probably would be a little leery about it also. I will say one thing, from what I understand, it was reported. From what I've read, it was reported.
Yeah, that's not the issue. Basically, the issue is that, the state and the city are passing the buck back and forth and pointing their fingers at each other. When what is brought to light is that they need a better system for reporting these incidents.
And actually that system has been put in place since then. It wasn't in place then. It has been put in place since then. There is a better reporting system now. My problem with the whole thing was that I thought a press release should have been issued immediately to the media following that incident. The first day that it happened, it went on for 8 days. Should have happened right away, because once you don't do that, then it becomes a bigger story once the media does find out, and then people start thinking that, well, people were trying to hide stuff when maybe they really weren't, but you give people that impression. So from my point of view, they really should have issued a press release right away. The failure of the pumps, I don't think the city had anything to do with that. They didn't put them in. The 2 of them were brand new. The company that put them in was to blame for that. And actually, from my point of view, the city's got to pay a $13,000 fine. Why isn't the company that installed the pumps paying that fine? Why isn't the city going after them for that money?
That's very true. Very true. You know something? I don't live in the city, and I don't really want to criticize what goes on in the city, because there's a lot of different moving parts, and basically they'll figure it out. Right. I think the Gazette takes every opportunity they can to, use the city of Amsterdam for editorial material, but that's their prerogative also.
Right, and I noticed that lately, especially, they've done it a few times.
Yeah, and it's what amazes me is that they are very eager to put an editorial in anti-city, but I don't even think they have a reporter from Montgomery County.
Yeah, they do have one, Matthew McGibbon.
Yeah, but I believe he covers Fulton County and Schoharie County also.
Yes, he does. He covers 3 counties, last I knew, Montgomery, Fulton, and Schoharie. Now, they used to have 2 people doing that, and, well, years ago they had more than that. They had 2. I don't know if they put a second person back on or not, but I know Matthew seems to be the primary person covering that.
Yeah, and it used to be that WNT every morning they would read the news out of Schenectady or the Daily Gazette, but that's no longer the case. Now they have to do the legwork themselves, I guess. Right. Because the news is a day stale always in the Gazette. So.
Right.
Okay, Dan, have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you. You too. Okay, 843-2500 is a number if you want to call in, wish your mother a happy Mother's Day, or talk about some of the issues we've already brought up. By the way, I went to buy salts the other day for my water softener, because I live just barely outside of Amsterdam, and I have my own water and sewer system. The price of salts for my water softener went from $6 and something a bag to almost $10 a bag, and that's because of the shortage of salt. So much salt was used this winter. Good morning, you're on Valley Vox.
Yes, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Hey, you were talking about the pumps failing down there for the sewer system and that, and the company being reliable on that.
Right.
That was just like that $5 million tank that we put down there that was supposed to turn the waste into pellets, and we were going to sell the pellets, and it never worked. And the taxpayers ended up, footing the bill for that. It seems like every time that the city does something and it doesn't work, we never recoup any of our money back from these companies that end up selling us something that doesn't work, or something like that. You know what I mean? You're talking big numbers,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I wonder, I forgot, I mean, I vaguely recall that incident, but I wonder, did the city attorney go after them? Did anybody go after them? You know, or
Yeah, but I guess they ended up going out of business or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And we never ended up recouping anything, and we didn't pay it, and they fined us and everything else, and I guess we ended up having to pay that.
Well, that's why it's important when the city does business, not necessarily to take the low bidder, but to make sure that whoever they do get to do a job is reliable. Because I mentioned a couple weeks ago about this city in Rhode Island that invested in a turbine to create electricity, a windmill, and
Yeah.
they went with a fly-by-night company. The turbine went, and they can't get a new turbine, so they're stuck with this windmill that doesn't work. And so it is important that the city look at any bids they get and make sure that whatever company they go with is the most reliable. You know, you got to look at the bottom line also, but if they're the low bidder and they're not reliable, that it's throwing money away.
Well, it was like the bridge that they put over there to the park over there. I guess they went with the lowest bidder there, and everybody shook their heads and say, how the heck can they do it for that? They got halfway through it and told the city they needed more money, and the city ended up paying them. Instead of saying, you bid it for that price, you put it up for that price.
Yeah, well, that's true. They should be forced to stick to their contract. And you know, some of them bid low, probably knowing that, you know, maybe they will come. They'll get the contract, and then maybe the municipality will come up with any extra money they need.
Yeah, but that's one of the problems. But you're talking about this fine that we got for the sewer. Now, I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
I used to live in the East End, and down there they used to bring in these out-of-town vehicles, and they used to dump their sewer down on the bottom of Swan Street down there. Yeah, they used to dump a truck maybe with 6,000 gallons or 9,000 gallons.
Okay.
All in one shot. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but I don't even think they knew how many gallons were going in there or how they were charging the people that used to dump it. But all I know is when they dumped it, it was hard for us to flush our toilets or anything else
Oh,
because it used to back up because you're dumping so much at one time.
right. Well,
You know?
I honestly don't know anything about that, but if it's still being done, it sounds like something that shouldn't be done. I know my store on Main Street, there are times when it's very difficult to flush the toilet, although it seems to me that it's when we've had a lot of rain, and so maybe the water and sewer system haven't been, haven't been separated yet, because there are parts of the city where that hasn't. Yeah.
The next time you have a hard problem dumping your toilets and that, take a ride down Swan Street, I believe it is, on the bottom of it down there. You got a transfer station.
Uh-huh.
And see if there's a tractor trailer sitting in there, or see if there's a truck sitting in there dumping waste into the station down there.
Okay, I'll do that.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they used to go in that one that was fenced off there. They used to have keys for it. So I don't know how the city ever kept track of it or ever charged the people that used to dump their waste there. I don't know if they had a contract for them or what.
Right. Well,
You know.
I don't know either. I can't really talk about that because I don't know anything about it. But hopefully it's not being done anymore. Or if it's being done, it's being done properly.
Well, that's the only thing I'm saying. You know, when you dump so much at one time, then pumps can't handle
Sure.
it. So they're not made for that, you know?
That's right.
So that was all I wanted to tell you about, you know what I mean? Because they were
Okay.
saying the fine and everything else, and to me it just seems like, you know, the system should be able to handle what amount of people that we do have, because we got less people living in the city now than what we used to have back in the 40s and 50s, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So, but all right, I thank you very much for your time there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, bye.
All right.
Okay, yeah, it's true, the city has less people. Unfortunately, the system is older than it used to be, it's aging. And then we have companies that weren't here before using a lot of water. BeechNut uses a lot of water, an awful lot of water. I don't know how the old mills that were here, how much water they used, you know, like the carpet mills or what have you, but Beech Nut, being a food processing place, baby food processing, uses a lot of water and creates a lot of sewage. As I've said before, I know because I drive up Broadway Hill all the time, and something's not right with that system, and it's still not right after all these years. They fixed it many, many times, and there's still a horrific odor many days when you're driving up Broadway. And unfortunately, it's not been fixed. They've tried to fix it. They spent money on some kind of, I don't know, charcoal filters and things like that, but it still is bad. It smells really bad. Now, I mentioned the other day that the governor was creating a wage board to make sure that fast food workers were getting wage increases, because the state is spending over $700 million a year supporting people who work in the food industry who don't earn enough. And you know, they're eligible for food stamps, for HEAP, for welfare. In some cases they're eligible for all kinds of things. So essentially the state, and the state is you and I, because we're the ones that pay the taxes, we are actually supporting these people, and in a sense we're giving corporate welfare to these corporations, because if they were giving these people a living wage, they would not qualify for these government programs, meaning then that you and I would not have to pay these people to be around, to live, you know. So but he's also created another commission, or creating it. I'm not 100% sure if it's gone through yet, but it was in the state budget, and now there's going to be guaranteed future periodic pay raises for the governor, New York state legislators, and other state government officials. So he's creating a second wage board or commission, and they're going to meet every 4 years to decide how much increase the governor, the state officials, and so on should get. Whereas before it was whenever the legislators felt like it, and depending on how much pressure they got from the people, sometimes it might go 6, 7 years, 8 years, because the people put enough pressure on them to keep them from getting more pay raises, feeling that the state legislators already are paid well enough for a part-time job, and I feel that way. You know, they make enough. I mean, how much more money do you need above, say, $80,000 a year? How much more do you need to live on? What are you doing with it? Most of us here don't make that kind of money. We could live on what these people are getting. But it's, you know, it's this whole thing, well, we deserve more because of this and that and the other thing. So you got the 1%, and even those people who aren't part of the 1% but are still quite high up in the income bracket, they're making a pile of money, while the rest of us are way down in the low end, making very little. So that's another wage commission. The first wage commission, I think, is a good idea, because it's going to help the taxpayers out, hopefully relieve the tax burden by making these. I don't think they should do it for small fast food things. You know, if you've got a small little business, you're not a chain, you're not a corporation, I'd hate to see them have to pay those wages, because those would probably go out of business. I'm talking about the corporations, and you know what they are. You know, the fast food joints up on Route 30. They don't pay their people enough, and those people qualify for food stamps and so on. So that particular wage commission, I think, is a good idea. We ought to at least try it, see what happens. But this one, the other one for the governor and lawmakers, essentially is putting their pay raises on autopilot. Every 4 years they're going to get a pay raise of sorts. And of course, now if the governor appoints this commission, well, they aren't going to likely do anything to make the governor unhappy. Okay, our phone number is 843-2500. This is Dan Weaver. The show is Valley Vox. We're just about ready to go to a break, and I'll see you after the break is over. Well, I won't see you, but hopefully I'll listen to you if you call in. Call in to wish your mother a happy Mother's Day, or call in to talk about your mother. Apparently nobody so far feels like doing that, so that's okay too. We can talk about the things. I came prepared to talk about all kinds of things. I always do. And we can talk about those things. We've had some good calls so far, and I'm very pleased with the things people have brought up. So we're going to a break now.
I'm Tim Everhart with the latest weather, brought to you by Patriot Federal Bank. Located on Route 30 in Amsterdam, Erie Boulevard in Canajoharie, and across from the Holiday Inn on North Comrie Ave in Johnstown. Today, May 9th, sunshine mixing with afternoon clouds, very warm and a touch humid with a high in the mid-80s. Tonight, some clouds at times, very mild and dry, a low around 60. And for your Mother's Day, a mixture of sunshine and clouds, quite warm with increase in humidity and a slight chance of an afternoon or evening shower or thunderstorm, a high in the mid-80s. I'm Tim Everhart, and that was the latest weather, brought to you by your friends at Patriot Federal Bank. Hometown banking with the personal difference.
Hey, this is Chef Castiglia. Join us this Mother's Day for brunch Sunday, May 10th at Rolling Hills Country Club. To see the full lineup of our delicious foods, check out our website at golfrollinghills.cc. Come and join and enjoy. We'll make your mom happy.
Mother's Day is just around the corner, and Rolling Hills is hosting its annual Mother's Day brunch Sunday, May 10th. Open to the public, Rolling Hills Golf and Country Club will be serving up everything from salad to waffles, scrambled eggs, and oven-roasted chicken. Of course, no Mother's Day brunch is complete without a carving station featuring prime rib and all the assorted pastries you can eat for dessert. Adults are just $24.95 and kids ages 7 to 12 are $12.95. Reservations are recommended and this will fill up fast, so call Rolling Hills today, 829-7817. That's 829-7817 to get your reservations for the Mother's Day brunch, Sunday, May 10th at Rolling Hills Golf and Country Club.
Come get everything you need to completely update your home at all the right prices during the Home Rejuvenation event at Ruby and Query. Start from the ground up and rejuvenate your home with beautiful new carpet, tile, laminate, or hardwood floors, and we'll make sure that you're getting the best for your family with a free upgrade to our Healthier Living installation. Then take advantage of big savings on the latest technologies with a new washer, dryer, refrigerator, oven, or high-temperature dishwasher from trusted brands like Samsung, Electrolux, GE, Maytag, and Frigidaire. You'll get the guaranteed lowest prices on these amazing new appliances. And that's not all. Right now at Ruby and Query, you can save up to 50% on red-hot buys throughout the store, plus dozens of scratch and dent appliances on sale. So come to the Home Rejuvenation event at Ruby and Query today while these amazing offers last. Located in Johnstown across Route 38 from the Holiday Inn or at rnq.com. Always the best for less.
Looking for a fun night of bingo with friends? The Amsterdam Elks Lodge has a weekly bingo night every Thursday night. There's a guaranteed $1,800 prize fund, a weekly increase in the bonus ball, as well as 2 bonus games every week. To find out more about the Elks Lodge bingo night on Thursdays, call 842-6363 or stop by the Amsterdam Elks Lodge at 8 4th Avenue in Amsterdam. We'll see you there.
Have you shopped for insurance lately? How long has it been? Years? You know you can save money on insurance these days. The Kanowski Agency with locations in Amsterdam, Johnstown, and Rotterdam can help. There are many discounts available. If you need insurance or an updated policy, the Kanowski Agency can take care of all types of insurance: life, auto, home, and business. The Kanowski Agency are business specialists. Whether you need insurance for retail, service, commercial property, business, workman's compensation, commercial auto, or comprehensive liability, the Kanowski Agency represents the most competitive insurance companies. They'll find the best policy at the lowest price. For information, call the Kanowski Agency, Locust Avenue in Amsterdam at 843-1253. Find out how you can save money, update your policy, and find the service that's not available from some national 800 number. The Kanowski Agency with locations in Amsterdam, Johnstown, and Rotterdam. Call 843-1253 for the office near you.
Hey, listen, this is Salmania. If you really like Italian music, I know you will like my music. So be with me on Sunday from 9 to 12. 3 hours of Italian music with Salmania. You will enjoy. Thank you so much. Have a good time.
The biggest selection of wines and spirits, the lowest prices every day. Convenience and friendly service. That's why you'll hear us say we'll keep you in the best of spirits.
Hi everybody, Swap Shop Joe here for my friends at West End Wine and Liquor. Bill and Lorraine feature a large selection of your favorite wines and liquors, great service, and some of the best prices in the area. They're located at 265 Division Street. Call them at 842-6111. And remember, West End Wine and Liquor is run by Amsterdam people for Amsterdam people.
We'll keep you in the best of spirits.
That's West End Wine and Liquor, 265 Division Street in Amsterdam.
We'll keep you in the best of spirits.
Located at 189 Marcus Street in Amsterdam, AAA Appliance has all the appliances you could need. Need a new washer? Not an issue. Fridge on the fritz? Not a problem. Just come visit the skilled repairmen at AAA Appliance. Priding themselves on prompt service and fair prices, AAA Appliance can help you find the perfect appliances for your home. Call them at 843-1222 or stop by. Remember, that's AAA Appliance, 189 Market Street in Amsterdam.
1490 AM, WCSS.
Okay, we're back. 843-2500 if you want to call in. We have a person called in during the break, Mickey LaCoppola, who I know, and wanted to wish his wife Diane and his mother Kathy a happy Mother's Day. And if anyone else wants to do that, please feel free to call 843-2500 and wish your mother or your daughter or your wife a happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day is one of the greatest days of the year as far as I'm concerned. My mother passed away back in 2002, but I still have my mother-in-law, Mary Sheridan, around. I'll be seeing her today. We are having the burial service for Jim Sheridan today at the Van Vechten Cemetery in Pattersonville. Jim died a couple months ago, but the ground was like iron and you couldn't bury anyone then. So I'll see Mary today. Many of you probably remember her. Some of you may have had her in Head Start, if you went to Head Start, or your kids may have had her. She taught children for many, many years. And she's a good mother-in-law. I have nothing bad, I've never had anything bad to say about her. Anyway, I was talking earlier about my water and sewer system out in the country. For those of you who have city water and sewer, I know the fee goes up every year, but guess how much you would have to pay if you lived out where I live in the town of Florida. My water, my well, I had to get a new well. My well and the water softening system, which I had to have because the water was just very, very hard, filled with iron. The iron's so heavy that when you took a shower before the water softener system was put in, the smell just about killed you. It's every bit as bad as sulfur. That cost about $12,000 for the well and that, because we had to go pretty deep. Then the septic system, $5,500. It has gone up quite a bit because now when you have a septic system, you have to have an architect or an engineer design it. Even though the guys that put them in generally know what they're doing, you still have to have an engineer or architect design it. Then on top of that, I have to buy chemicals for it every year, and I have to buy salts for it, every couple of months. So no matter how long you are on, getting city water and sewage, it will never cost you what it costs many of us out in the country, what we have to pay. And on top of that, if your well pump goes, you have to pay for it yourself. And after so many years, things deteriorate. You have to replace the water softener, and other things come along. You have to have your septic tank pumped out every so many years, which isn't cheap. It's like $300, something along that line. So I do understand people in Amsterdam's situation. When I was in the city, I did not like it when my water and sewer fees went up, and it always bugged me because that was just another way to get more money out of the people by separating certain fees from the general taxation. They could make more money. They could they could avoid the 1% tax cap that the Common Council put on the city. So it wouldn't surprise me down the road if they figure out another way to charge you another fee and make more money. But we don't have it all that great out in the country either. Okay, we talked about trains a few weeks ago, and some people said that the sound of the trains bothered them, and also that it was one of the problems, one of the reasons why people didn't want to stay at our hotel. And of course, Rob Von Haslund was here that day, and he was saying that there's such new technology now that they could make it possible that the trains wouldn't be so loud at the hotel. And of course, a number of people I saw on Facebook the other day had this conversation, and all of them said that the sound of the trains, they enjoyed it. And you know, when 9/11 happened, the trains stopped for several days. When the floods happened back in 2011, the trains stopped for several days. And you know, without those train sounds, things were a little eerie. It was a little eerie around here, not hearing those trains. Now, people maybe people staying at the hotel aren't used to trains because in their town they don't have them. But all up the Hudson Valley and the Mohawk Valley and out through central New York, where most of the population of upstate New York lives, they live along that corridor, Hudson Valley, Mohawk Valley, right out straight through central New York. They have trains going near their homes and trains going near their motels and hotels. So I really think this issue about the trains being a problem in the hotel is kind of a bogus issue. I just don't see it as being a real serious problem. Let's go to the phones. We have another call. Good morning. You're on Valley Vox.
Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. It's a beautiful day. My wife's name is Barbara, not Diane, but that's okay. You can call her Diane.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the name. That was the name I was given by the guy who took the phone call.
It's okay. That's okay. He's all right.
Yeah.
I love the radio station. I love listening to the Mets on the porch. I'm on my porch right now listening, and I haven't a complaint in the world. I don't like the train noises, but that's my own opinion. And I know when I'm down there, I don't like them. I think there should be an alternate way for them to do it, just because the businesses in that area shouldn't have to listen to that 1,200 times a day. When I was a kid, we played on the train tracks. We knew enough to stay away from it. I mean, maybe they could put sound barriers down there, something to remediate that.
I think that would be a good idea. Also,
I live on a busy street. You can hear the noise in the background. That has never bothered me. It's comforting. I know that's probably how the people feel who are used to the train noises.
Right.
But it's a beautiful Mother's Day weekend, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and just appreciate what you've got, because one day Mom's not going to be there. And we're all very fortunate to have the mothers that we have and the fathers. But especially on Mother's Day, we appreciate all the women. It's all the women, you know.
Right.
They are our equal, and we should treat them as such. And without women, we wouldn't be here. And also, even the women who don't have kids, we should thank them too, because they may have a dog or an animal or a husband that they take care of really, really, really good. And appreciate everything we've got and the air that we breathe and our moms. So. And on that note, I'll leave it really positive, which is unusual for Amsterdam, but I really want to leave it on a positive note.
Sure.
Appreciate what you do. I love listening. I don't call in because I really don't have much to say too many times. I agree with a lot of what you guys have to talk about, and I also like to keep it real positive. So you have a great weekend, okay?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Nice talking to you. Thanks for having me on there.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, we do need to thank all the women. You know, some women who are unable to have children, I wonder if they feel kind of bad this weekend. But I've noticed that many women who don't have children become surrogate moms for other children. I know people in Amsterdam like that. I know a woman in Amsterdam who's never been married, never has children, but she's right there being a mother or like an aunt or mother to a lot of children in the city. So there are other ways of being a mother when you can't have children. Back to the trains, you know, there's a city in Ohio called Fostoria, Ohio. And before I talk about the city, you know what you have to do? When you have something that is a problem in a city, a negative thing, you got to turn it into a positive. And the trains can be turned into a positive. First of all, you have to remember that CSX is one of the biggest taxpayers in this county. People say, well, how does CSX get away with this? How do they get away with that? How come they were able to shut that crossing down in Fonda? Well, if you were as wealthy as CSX, and if you pay the taxes that they pay in this county, you do have a lot of power. Maybe more than you should have, but they do have a lot of power. Now, what this town in Fostoria, Ohio did after many of its factories closed was they developed their town into a place for rail fans to come. Now, I've heard people make fun of that, you know, make fun of the train spotters. Yeah, they're going to come and sit on the bridge and watch the trains. You know what? They are. They are going to come to that pedestrian bridge and sit on it and watch the trains and take photos of the train, because I know several of these guys, and they said already that they're going to do that. Right now, sometimes they sit up on the on that, you know, the stairs that go down to Riverlink Park. They sit up on top and they watch the trains and they take pictures from there. Now, this town in Ohio, Fostoria, Ohio, has many trains a day. Actually, a few more than Amsterdam has. Amsterdam, I believe, averages about 75 a day. Not quite as much as Fostoria, Ohio, but enough to make Amsterdam a place for rail fans to come to. And that's one way we should, you know, it would be good to get if we could have a quiet zone or somehow have noise abatement things put up to block the sound of the trains, especially when you go to those concerts at Riverlink Park. It becomes a bit of a problem. It would be good if we had that. But also, we need to take this, what we might think of as a negative, and turn it into a positive by making Amsterdam similar to this Fostoria, Ohio, because this has become a moneymaker for that town. And as far as I know, no other town in New York State is doing it. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take this negative and turn it into a positive? We already have a model train store. It's not in the city. It's actually up in Perth. But the guy who runs that, he was the one who launched the first ever train show here in Amsterdam that took place a few weeks ago down here in Riverfront Center. And they had 500 paying customers come. Anyone under 12 came in for free. So that meant they had 500 adults, who knows how many children. They had 50, 60, 70, I've heard different figures, but anywhere from 50 to 75 vendors. It was incredibly successful. One vendor came who didn't sell an item. Many of the vendors did real well, but one vendor came, apparently had more high-end stuff, and he didn't say anything, sell anything, but he said he's coming back next year anyway, because it was so good, so successful, that he wanted to be here next year, and he figured over time more people will come, maybe some people with deeper pockets, and they'll buy his stuff. So that's something to think about. We need to be coming up with ideas for how to make Amsterdam a better place to live, how to make more money for the city, and we can't do that if we gripe all the time. And don't accuse me of walking around with rose-colored glasses, because I don't. I see the blight in the city, and it needs to be dealt with. It's one of the most serious problems we face in this city, which is why I think we need to get back to that golf course place, dealing with that, because it's one place where we can make some revenue. And I think the compromise, which we could start with, which would not hurt anyone, it would not hurt the golfers at all, as far as I'm concerned, can only be a win-win situation, is to develop the land that's not actually part of the golf course, but is golf course property, because the golf course is not making us any money right now, and all it does is become a sore spot in the city politics and keeps us from dealing with the major problems that need to be dealt with. So we should come up with as many possible ideas as we can for making the city a better place to live, instead of calling talk shows and griping. And I'm thankful that most people that call this talk show do not call in and just gripe. They call in and they give ideas, they speak intelligently about these issues. I would like to get, I contacted a couple of real estate agents when I first started the show, and they said they would come on. I'd like to get one of them on to talk about the problem with blight in the city. Is there something that real estate agents could be doing? Is there something that George Amador could do? George Amador is in the construction business. Could we ask him to come here and give us some ideas about dealing with the blight, with developing property, and so on? So there's a lot of things we need to do, but if we're always fighting about golf court fees and basketball hoops and stuff that, yeah, maybe it is important, but there's bigger issues. We got to deal with these big issues. We have to deal with the blight problem in Amsterdam, the housing problem. When I first moved here in '78, very few houses were being taken down. It was rare that you saw a house being taken down. It wasn't until maybe the 90s that this started to happen. You have three areas of decay in Amsterdam, 3 eras, I should say. You had the era of industrial decline, then the era of retail decline. Now we're seeing an era of residential decline, and we've got to deal with that residential decline. We've got a call. Let's take it. Good morning. You're on Valley Vox.
Dan, what is your opinion about this landfill they've talked about through the years?
Well, I used to be told.
I'll hang up and let you comment on the radio.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My opinion, I was against it originally. Against it. The more I've listened to people, the more I am open to at least opening it back up for discussion. Now, somebody called in and said that there were environmental studies that showed there were issues. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I would like to see that, and hopefully I'll get a chance to someday. But I do think it may be time, maybe not yet, but at some point we need to revisit that issue. We need to talk about it at least and have a conversation that doesn't involve people yelling at each other. That doesn't involve a former alderman who no longer lives in the city, I believe, talking about these contractors using some reference, I forget what it was. I think it was to Nazism or something. Anyway, incredibly rude. Now these guys had come in here and spent like $1 million already, and then they basically lost that money because it didn't go through. And so, you know, it was a real slap in the face, and that's happened to a lot of people that have come to Amsterdam to do business, is they've gotten such a negative reaction that, you know, they don't want to come back. As I've said before many times, selling a landfill is difficult. It might be impossible to sell it to people because just the term landfill, it just turns people off. And even though a C&D landfill basically is non-toxic, non-dangerous stuff, and it still would be capped by thick layers of clay and whatever else they use to cap these landfills, I have a feeling it's going to be a tough sell. It's like having another quarry, having a quarry in the city. It would be a tough sell. I don't know if you remember, they tried to get a quarry in Perth a few years ago, and they met in tremendous opposition. Certain things are very difficult to sell unless you live in a place that's incredibly desperate, like one town, I believe it's in Ohio, that accepts all kinds of trash there. They get paid for all the trash that they collect there. And maybe you've seen these trash trains go through Amsterdam. You see these trains with these open box cars, but not box cars, open hopper cars, I guess they're called, with netting over the top of them. Those are trash trains. I don't know what they're carrying. Obviously, it's not toxic or wouldn't be in those kind of cars. And that's going to some town in Ohio that's so desperate for money that they're willing to take them, and they get paid so much, a ton or whatever, for taking them. So these kind of things are hard to sell. Nevertheless, I do believe it's something we have to look at. Amsterdam is getting really, I believe, in a fairly desperate state, and we need to look at things. Now, another bad piece of news came along recently, and that is that KeyBank downtown on Lower Market is going to close at the end of July. And that was very distressing to me, being that I have a business downtown, and the more businesses you have, the better it is. When I first moved to Amsterdam, there were 6 banks downtown Amsterdam, 6. With the closing of KeyBank, there will only be 2, counting the credit union. On the other hand, there has been some positive growth downtown and on Bridge Street. We've had new businesses open up. Ada has focused on the downtown, and I hope Ada continues to do that, because I think Ada has shown more wisdom in rehabbing this building downtown and getting it full of tenants than they did when they put money into restaurants, 2 restaurants, and lost over $1 million in each of those fiascos. I think they've shown much better wisdom in working on downtown. And downtown, it's tough to have a decent city without a decent downtown. It's like having a heart ripped out of a city. It's like you're a zombie city almost. And so I see positive things happening downtown, but it is a little disheartening that KeyBank is closing. I hope that that negative can be turned into a positive by somebody buying that and maybe not even using it as a bank, maybe turning it into something else. One thing I'd like to see in Amsterdam is a co-op like Gloversville has. I don't know if you've ever been in that co-op, but it's fantastic. They have an art gallery there where each artist takes turns running it so that nobody is paid to run it. Now I understand last year or the year before, they sold over $20,000 worth of art. That's amazing. That's amazing to me that a small city could sell that much art. And then in the rest of the co-op, there's all kinds of food items. There's organic food, but there's regular food, milk, and so on. And it's almost all local products. So it gives an outlet for people who raise things locally to sell. And rather than a farmer's market that's only open once a week, it's open every day. So that might be something that could go into that building. I don't know. I just hope we can repurpose it for something and keep that building occupied, because with KeyBank closed, you're going to have KeyBank closed, the hotel closed, Hotel and Flores is empty, and the central administration building of the school district is empty. So that's a lot, and several of those are fairly large buildings. So we need to work on revitalizing Amsterdam's downtown, as well as work on the blight problem at the same time. Well, we only have 3 more minutes. We could take one more call if somebody wants to call at 843-2500. If not, I want to wish all the mothers, and not only the mothers, but those who have been surrogate mothers, the aunts, and so on, a happy Mother's Day. I would like to wish my wife a happy Mother's Day, all my sisters, my mother-in-law, and you know, it does seem like women bear the brunt of the caretaking in this country. So many grandmothers out there raising their grandchildren because of irresponsible parents, and particularly fathers, and some of the problem we have in this country with young people being out of hand, and with crime, and a lot of it's committed by young men, and a lot of them don't have a father present, and that's a serious issue too, because a child really needs a mother and father. They really need a male and a female, because they approach things different and they complement each other. And when a child just grows up with his mother or with his dad, they don't have both sides. They don't have the yin and the yang of life, and they really need both. And that's why it's great when a father figure or a mother figure can fill in for the parent that's not there. Well, Spring Fling is next Saturday. Also next Saturday is the Amsterdam Reads program at the library, the Orphan Train, from 10:30 to 11:30. Kids are going to learn about the story of the Orphan Train of the 1850s and the kids who wrote it. It's from 10:30 to 11:30 next Saturday at the Amsterdam Library. Craft activity included, one to keep and one to donate. Also next Saturday, J-Town will be having a taping of his radio drama, Any Good Thing, and that will take place down at the Creative Connections Art Center. Creative Connections Art Center. And that, I can't find the paper here. Jay, I apologize again. I'm always seem to be, can't find your paper. Anyway, I believe it starts at 1 o'clock. If not, I will have to mention it again on Tuesday. And I'll be back here on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And hopefully you'll tune in and listen to another edition of Valley Vox. Ann Piccone will be on the first part of our show, talking about a conference, an event that the Walter Elwood Museum is having, involving the issue of women's suffrage. It took women a long, long time to get the right to vote. She's going to be talking about that. We'll take calls from you about that, and then the rest of the program we will talk about whatever you want to talk about, or whatever I want to talk about. I'll come in prepared as usual to talk. And I want to thank you again for tuning in to WCSS 1490 AM. This is Dan Weaver, your host of Valley Vox. Please stay tuned for the Beatles show and for George's rants, raves, and requests. And it's a great show. And George, I just wish I had George's voice so I could, you know, really bellow like he does. When I get riled up, I do it, but I'm not riled that often. So thank you again for listening.
Sleep till the morning comes, I dream about you, baby. And I feel alright, 'cause I know